Welcome. Today I begin the path of rebuilding an old favorite case of mine. I am Bruce, and this is Gears of More, the sauce for the goose of technology. Let's do this thing. Today I'll be giving this case a rebuild. It all started with my motherboard of 5 years finally giving up the ghost. The time was right for a refresh. Now some of you are wondering, what's the big deal? Why put so much effort in adding bling to a computer case? Well, you can blame all that on the gamer. You see, a little over 3 decades ago, the personal computer, or PC, was starting to gain a foothold. You can write letters, do your finances, or even play games such as Minefield, Solitaire, or chess. But then, more engaging games came along, such as Prince of Persia, Doom, and Wolfenstein. There were other games that came along, but these were my personal favorites. Fans were hooked by the simulated 3D looks and realistic sounds. They found that by upgrading the components such as memory, sound cards, and processor, that the games ran smoother and sounded even better. Newer games took advantage of these upgrades and pushed the limit even further. Further upgrades found that those games ran even smoother and thus began the slippery slope. PC cases soon thereafter started to incorporate toolless design and ease of access, adding thumb screws everywhere you need to open a component. This allowed for a much faster, efficient way of swapping out components. Later on, they would add windows so you can look inside and see the goods. These windows became so big that you can see the entire interior, showcasing everything. Component manufacturers start to add lights and style to accentuate the now visible innards. This brought rise to a new offshoot of the PC gamer, the PC enthusiast, which brings us to this today. Now, don't get me wrong. You can probably build a really great system that can outperform the best of them out of a plain case, no fear. But for the PC enthusiast, style is just about as important as the performance itself. Right here is the Lian Li PC-08 WX. It is a full-size case featuring 2 tempered glass panels to showcase your wares inside. On top, we have the power button, audio jack, and 4 USB 3.0 ports. There's also 2 removable dust filters, one on the top here and on the side here. Right inside here. Let's remove this. This is where the motherboard is mounted vertically, but behind that is where you hide all the naughty bits. Cables, power supply, hard drives. At the time of this video, this case, the PC-08, was very hard to find. There are newer cases out there. In fact, I included a link in my description below to Lian Li so you can see some of their more modern cases. I plan in the future to build a much more killer rig based on those more modern cases, but that's another story to tell. You see these 3 fans? Behind them is an inner chamber where in the past I just shoved my cables and junk and forgot about it. That was ridiculous. That's going to change today. I'm going to give that compartment some much needed love and cable management, and then after that, I go to work on the front. These 3 fans have always been advertised as being on the outside of the outer chamber, but I wanted a much more cleaner look, so I moved them on the inside. But I won't stop there. I have 3D printed some fan grills that I got from Thingiverse and made them twice as thick to accent the depth. And to make things simpler, I'm replacing all the screws with these bolts and wing nuts. Let's get started on this. After 3 days of trial and error, I finally made some progress. I've installed the printed fan grills right here. Can't wait to light this candle to see what kind of effect it makes. but most of the challenge happened here, inside the case. Remember when I said this case has some features that are somewhat dated? Well, one of them are the 4 USB ports right on top here. Most cases utilize only 2 USB ports because it's just not that popular anymore, and not really, it's kind of overkill. As a result, most motherboards, including the one I have, only have ports to accommodate 2 of those. So what I've done is I purchased an expansion card to take up the other 2 ports. So I routed the first 2 set of cables along here, zip tied them to these fans and along the bottom and out to connect to the hard drive, to the motherboard. The other 2 set went along the top, down the bottom, and out to the other side to connect to the expansion card. Another dated feature, the hard drive cage. This 6 hard drive setup, which I'll be using as a RAID array, is just not that common in system today. With the advent of SATA and M.2 hard drives, it's just not that popular. But I have so many hard drives, I'm just not going to toss them out. I'm going to use them. So I got a hold of some extra long SATA cables I was using the server, zip tied them to the other side of this cage. As you can see here, mind the mess, right here, comes along the back and out here. It's set up in such a way that I can remove the cage and remove any one of these hard drives without too much of an incident. The biggest challenge though is this beast, the power supply. I forgot what a massive amount of cables it uses. So I had to get creative with cable management. I literally tied things up in zip ties and bunched them up as tight as possible to get some clearance from the fan to get some airflow to the back of this power supply. Also, I cut off the extra ends of these Molex cables and the SATA cable and Molex cable. You can do that, but I caution 2 things. First of all, you want to make sure that you're not crippling yourself by removing something you might need later. Secondly, you want to make sure that any exposed wires are covered up. I put 2 coats of electrical tape to protect from any shortages whatsoever, because the last thing you want is a health hazard, an electrical hazard, or simply potentially damaging your hard-earned equipment. So protect that from shortage. That's a must. Attaching the motherboard and the all-in-one cooler was pretty straightforward, but the fun was about to begin. I'll be using the Lian Li streamer cable set. What it does is basically takes a cable and adds some lighting effects to make some add some bling, so to speak. But I have a lot of cables already and I just don't want to add any more. Instead, I'm going to get rid of the thing and add some bling. Adding the first set of streamers around the CPU cooler was a bit trickier than I thought, but after a little bit of coaxing and wiggle room, I finally got it in. The second set of streamers, along with some clips that I created on my 3D printer, will fit them right on the back plate of my GPU, like this. Okay, here we are, finished product. It took roughly 3 months in the making, compressed into a short video of course, but I really like the effects. Let's get a closer look and see what we're dealing with now. And there we are, my final rebuild of the PC-08 computer case by Lian Li. It was a nice adventure. I hope to do some future builds with some more advanced systems in the near future, or distant future, whatever. But I'm pleased to do this. I'll have more videos reviewing other products as they come along, and some old ones that I've been testing for over a year. So for now, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and remember, let's keep it shiny.
This portion was brought to you by Crawling Octopus, who believes in you. You can do the thing.